Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, I'll be cutting and sewing this bustier crop top with front zipper that you can see on your screen. So the first thing I'll do is to take out about 6 inches because it's an all shoulder blouse. So I'm going to take out 6 inches. If you don't want the neckline to be too deep, you can do about 4 to 5 inches, and if you want it deeper, you can do up to 6 or 6 inches. Okay, so for me, I'll be taking out 6 inches, and then I'll go ahead and mark all my points. The distance from my shoulder to my chest line is 8 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. The distance from my shoulder to my under bust point is 13 inches. The distance from my shoulder to my waist point is 16 inches, and the length of my crop top is going to be 19 inches because I don't want it to be as short as the one on the thumbnail. So I'm taking 19 inches. I'm going to fold it using 1 inch, so the length of the crop top is going to be 18 inches. After marking my points, I'll go ahead and rule straight lines across. So before you take your point, go ahead and take your zipper allowance because we are drafting for the front and the zipper is at the front. So I forgot to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, so from the center front, I'm going to mark 2 inches all the way down to my blouse length. After doing that, I'll connect into a straight line and I'll adjust all my line. So once you're through with that, go ahead and label your lines. So I have my chest line, which is 8 inches, my bust point, which is 10 inches, my under bust point, which is 13 inches, my waist point, which is 16 inches, and my blouse length, which is 19 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take my bust band measurement, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. If you are drafting directly on your fabric, add half an inch to that measurement, which is going to be your stitching allowance. Okay, so half of my nipple to nipple measurement is 4 inches, so I'm taking 4 inches on the bust line, on the under bust line, on the waistline, and on the blouse length. After doing that, I'll connect the 4 dots into a straight line like this. The next thing I'll do now is to add 1 inch to what I have on the bust line, and I'll place it on the shoulder line. So I placed 4 inches as half of my nipple to nipple measurement, so I added 1 inch to that 4 inches, making it 5 inches. That is what I placed on the shoulder line, as you can see. So I connected it back to meet the bust point like this. So whatever half of your nipple to nipple measurement is, add 1 inch to it and place it on the shoulder line. The next thing I'll do is to take the darts on the blouse length. I'll take half an inch on both sides of this straight line, as you can see me doing. On the waistline, I'll take 1 inch on both sides. Okay, and on the under bust line, I'll take 1.5 inches on both sides. Okay, so on the blouse length, I took half inch on both sides of the straight line. On the waistline, I took 1 inches on both sides, 1 inch on both sides of the straight line. And on the under bust line, I'm taking 1.5 inches on both sides of the straight line. Okay, I'm working with a bust size 36. If you are busty on the waistline, you can take 1 inch on the center front and you take 1.5 inches on the side front. Okay, so what I'll do now is to connect like this to meet the blouse length. After doing that, I'm going to go down by 1 inch from the bust point, and I'll use the curved part of my ruler to just connect, as you can see me doing. Okay, so I came down by 1 inch from the bust point because I don't want any sharp edge on that part. The next thing I'll do now is to tighten my over bust. To do that, I'll be taking 1 inch on both sides of the shoulder line, and then I'm going to go up from the bust point by 1 inch. After doing that, I'll connect like this. Okay, this is to avoid gaping on the upper part of the bustier. After doing that, I'm going to blend this center together using my free hand. Okay, so this is what we have. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to start placing my measurement. So on the shoulder line, I'm going to take out 2 inches from half of my shoulder measurement. I'll place that and I'll replace this dart. Okay, the bust line, I'll place my bust circumference divided by 4 and I'll add my stitching allowance. On the blouse length, instead of placing your waist circumference divided by 4, which is going to make it tight, what you do is to add extra 2 inches to your waist measurement, because if you place your hip circumference divided by 4, it's going to be too big. So what you do is to add 2 inches to your waist circumference and then divide it by 4. I hope you understand. After placing it, go ahead and replace your dart and then add your stitching allowance. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to connect from the bust line to meet the blouse length like this. I'll connect the dots. Okay, after doing that, the next thing I'll do is to connect from the point that I have on the shoulder line to meet the bust line. So this is going to be my armhole. Okay, next thing I'll do now is to mark the neckline. So I want it to be a sweetheart neckline. So what I'll do is to go down. It depends on how deep you want the neckline to be. So you can go down up to your bust line depending on how deep you want it to be. So I'll stop at 3 inches. Okay, I'll connect from that leg to meet this 3 inches like this. Okay, so if you want it deeper, you can go deeper, and while connecting you can extend it into the zipper allowance. Okay, I didn't do that now, but I'm going to do that after cutting. So once you are done doing that, just go ahead and cut. So guys, I'm extending the neckline into the zipper allowance. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and just cut this part out. After cutting, guys, I'm going to place this pattern on my fabric folded into 2 and I'm going to cut. So go ahead and add the necessary stitching allowance. So I went ahead to add half an inch on all sides except the side front, because I already have my stitching allowance there. Okay, so this is what I have. If you're cutting directly on your fabric, you should have added your stitching allowance before cutting out. Okay, so what I'll do first of all is to notch my zipper allowance to know where it is. Okay, after doing that, I'll remove my pattern paper. So I have 2 center front and I have 2 side front. Center front is splitted into 2 because we are fixing the zipper to the front. Okay, so what you're going to do now, if you want to pad it, go ahead and pad it and then iron your hair stay or your paper stay or your pad, whatever you want to do with it. You can decide not to pad it, just iron hair stay to it and just sew. So whatever works for you. For me, I'll just cut out a little pad and I'll just iron it, and I'll also iron paper stay to it because it's an Ankara fabric. Okay, so I'm just going to do that, but if you don't want to pad it, it's also okay. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and work on the back. So for the back, I'll be cutting directly on my fabric. I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into 2. So just like I did for the front, I'm taking out 6 inches for the off shoulder, and I'll go ahead and start taking my point. So the first point I'll take is the distance from my shoulder to my chest line, which is 8 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 13 inches. The next point is distance from my shoulder to my waist point, which is 16 inches. And the last point is my blouse length, which is 19 inches. So we don't need the under bust point for the back because we're just taking our normal darts for the back. So your center back should be on fold because we are fixing the zipper to the front, so the back is going to be closed. So the next thing I did was to take out 2 inches from half of my shoulder measurement. Half of my shoulder measurement is 8 inches. I took out 2 inches from that measurement, so I placed 6 inches on the shoulder line and I added my stitching allowance. So on the bust line, I'm placing my bust circumference divided by 4. I'm also adding my stitching allowance. Next thing I'll do now is to connect from the shoulder line to this bust line. So this is my armhole, just like we did before. Okay, after doing that, on the blouse length, I'll add 2 inches to my waist circumference. Okay, and I'm going to divide it by 4, just like I explained while we're drafting the front. Okay, I'll place the measurement. After doing that, I'll add 1 inch for that, and I'll also add my stitching allowance. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to connect from the bust line to meet the blouse length like this. Okay, so next now I'll do is to now take in my dart. So I'm placing half of my nipple measurement, nipple to nipple measurement, on the blouse length, on the waistline, and on the bust line. After doing that, I'll connect the 3 dots into a straight line. So I left 1 inch for my dart intake, so I'll be taking half an inch on both sides of this straight line. On this bust line, I'll go down by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot. After doing that, I'll connect from the blouse length to the point that I have below the bust line. So I'm connecting from the half an inch, as you can see. Okay, after taking in my dart, the next thing I'll do is to work on the back neckline. If you want it to be out with this, you can leave it, but for me I want a round neckline for the back, so I'm just connecting from the bust line, the chest line, sorry. I'm connecting into the armhole area, so it depends on what you want for the back. If you want it deeper, you can go down. So after doing that, I just went ahead to cut, and then I'm going to notch my dart. Okay, so after doing that, guys, this is what I have. So what I'm going to do now is to cut out my lining piece for the back. Okay, so go ahead and do that. You sew your lining piece and you also take in your dart. I've gone ahead to cut out my lining for the front, and this is what I have. I'll do now is to place them right side facing right side, and I'll sew. So this is my fabric. I went ahead to iron paper stay to it and a little bit of wording to it. Okay, and I folded in my zipper allowance. So once I open it up, this is what it looks like. Okay, so this is just paper stay. If you don't want to pad yours, it's fine. I'm going to place them right sides facing right sides. So remember, I left half an inch for my joining allowance, so I'm going to sew using half an inch and following the shape that I have on the bustier. Okay, so for the back, I've gone ahead to cut out my lining. So when cutting out your lining, make sure your lining is at least half an inch shorter than your main fabric, but mine is about 1 inch shorter than my main fabric because I want to fold the fabric inward by 1 inch like I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to sew all the way, and I'll take in my darts for the back. I've gone ahead to sew my front in place, and this is what I have. So I went ahead to open it up and I gave it a good press. So this is what it looks like on the inside. So I also sewed my lining piece the same way that I sewed my main fabric. So I went ahead to also iron the lining. So what I'll do now is to place them right sides facing right side. As you can see, the lining is shorter than my main fabric by 1 inch. So I'll sew the base first, and then I'll turn it towards the neckline. I'll sew the neckline, and then I'll sew the side and the zipper allowance area, and I'll turn everything inside out through the armhole. Okay, so I've sewn the back in place. I've taken in my darts, as you can see. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so for the front also, I've gone ahead to sew. You can see that I sewed everywhere closed. I just went ahead to turn it inside out through the armhole. I didn't sew the armhole, and you can see that the lining is shorter than the main fabric by 1 inch. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do now is to arrange the front. I'll fold the zipper allowance in, as you can see me doing. I'll go ahead and fix my zipper. So this is a detachable zipper. This is the one you should use, okay, because you can zip it all the way down. So what I'll do is to just go ahead and fix the zipper to the front like this. Okay, and I'll cut off the excess zip. Okay, so after doing that, guys, we'll cut our sleeves. So for the sleeves, I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into 2. The wideness of this fabric on fold is 11 inches, meaning the whole wideness of the fabric is about 22 inches, and the length of my sleeves is about 24 inches. Okay, the first thing I'll do is to create casing for my elastic band on the upper part. Okay, so what I'll do is to mark 1.5 inches all the way. I'll connect into a straight line, as you can see me doing. This 1.5 inches is going to be for the casing of the elastic band. Okay, after doing that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and place the armhole area of my blouse. Okay, you can use the armhole area of the front or the back, anyone. So just look at the way I'm placing it, because I want the armhole area to match when I'm stitching them together. Okay, so I placed it after that 1.5 inches mark. I'll just go ahead and cut. Okay, after cutting, guys, this is what I have. So the first thing I will do is to go ahead and fold this 1.5 inches, making sure that the casing I'm creating is wide enough for my elastic band to pass through. So I'm using the smallest elastic band. I'll fold first and then I'll fold it over to make it neat. Okay, so the elastic band I'm using is this small one, and the length is about 8.5 inches. Okay, so you can go ahead and measure yours and use it. Okay, so I'm going to pass it through the channel that I'll be creating. So the next thing I'll do now is to open up the fabric. Okay, so if you want a normal puff sleeves, all you have to do is to fold the end of your fabric and then you pass your elastic band through. Okay, so what I want, the type of sleeves that I want, is the second one that you can see on the thumbnail, that has about two puff sleeves on it, two puff on it. Okay, so what I'll do is to go down from this 1.5 inches. So I remarked my 1.5 inches on the wrong side of this fabric, so I'm going down by 8 inches, which is going to be my first puff on the sleeves. Okay, so I'll mark 8 inches all the way to the end of this fabric and I'll connect into a straight line. Okay, after doing that, I'll go down by 9 inches, which is going to be the second puff on the sleeves. Okay, so I'll mark 9 inches all the way to the end of the fabric and I'll connect into a straight line. Okay, so if you want the regular puff sleeves, all you have to do is to fold the ends of your fabric and you're going to pass your elastic band through. Okay, so after marking all the way to the end, I'm going to cut out my elastic band. Okay, I want to gather my elastic band on this straight line. So the elastic band you'll be cutting out, make sure you measure it around your arm, your round sleeves, and make sure it's going to be enough. So this is what I'll be using. The length of this elastic band is about 7 inches. Okay, so what I'll do is to place this elastic band on the straight line. Okay, and I'll keep sewing and pulling to form my gathers, just like you see me doing. I'll keep pulling the elastic band while I sew on the elastic band to form my gathers. Okay, I'll do that for both of the straight lines. So guys, I fixed my zipper in place and this is what I have. So since it's detachable, I can zip it all the way down. Okay, so it's easy for me to wear my blouse. Okay, so I'm going to zip it up. Okay, so after doing that, guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to bring in my back piece and I'm going to place them right sides facing right sides. Okay, I'm going to shape it using my allowance. So the allowance that you left as your stitching allowance is what you are going to sew on it. Okay, so I've gone ahead to do that and this is what I have. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do now is to fix my sleeves in place. So I left a little bit of opening on the armhole area of the blouse. I also left opening on the sleeves. Okay, so what I'll do now is to bring in my sleeves. So after sewing the elastic band, I went ahead to close it on the side all the way to the end and I hemmed the base of the sleeves, as you can see. So I'm going to place the sleeves on the main bodice, right sides facing right side, following the shape that we have on the armhole area of the blouse and on the sleeves. Okay, I'm going to place them like this. I'll pin and I'll go ahead and sew. I'll repeat the same thing for the other sleeves. After doing that, I'll finish up the armhole area of the blouse. After sewing the sleeves in place and finishing up the armhole area, this is what I have. Guys, that is all for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to like this video, leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.